Hello guys, this is Kane. Welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to show you how you can move in between activities in Android Studio using the Kotlin language. This video is dedicated for explicit intents, how you can use this and how you can create multiple activities in one application to bounce between the screens, to bounce in between these activities. So I already created an exercise. I'm going to explain the topic from this exercise, and you will hopefully understand how you can use these activities, how you can create an intent and transfer variables from one activity to another. So without further ado, let's get started. In this exercise, in this application, I designed an activity main with name and surname values, as you can see, and I use text input layout, and within text input layout there is a text input edit text which allowed me to create a floating hint. A floating hint is basically just like a regular hint, but the only difference is as you type inside the box, the hint is just taken to the upper left of the screen so that you can still see in which field you are typing to. So using that pattern, I created one text input layout, and within that one input layout I put an input edit text for the name, and I did the same thing for the surname as well. So I have like two fields of text input edit text, one referring to the name, the other one that refers to the surname. Underneath these two layouts, one after the another, I put also a button, as you can see, called submit. So whenever you press on submit, it will go somewhere. And in the activity main, which I created by adding another activity to my application. So I'm going to show you that one too. So if you want to add another activity to your application, you can simply right click, go to the new, and find activity here. From the activity panel, you can actually find empty activity. I believe empty activity is the easiest one to manage, because if you select the other ones, there's some auto-generated code that will come with them. It can be a little bit tricky to modify them, so empty activity will be most probably your choice when creating another activity, because it will be easier to manage. As I have done this already in my application, which I created, as you can see, activity 2, it lists another class here, as you can see, and underneath that I have the main activity 2. So if we zoom in with a magnifier, we can see this a little bit better. So in this first one I have the main activity and activity main. Because I didn't change the name of it, I have main activity 2 and activity 2 XML here. So if I open activity 2 XML, I put a welcome message at the top, which is the text view, as you can see. Inside that, just underneath that, I have name and surname, which I'm gonna use to display the result that comes from the main activity, and underneath that I have a go back button, which I will use it to go back to the original activity that this came from. So how do we do this? We will go to the main activity, and first thing first, we're gonna get the name and the surname. This is main activity. So name value will be find view by ID. You can put text input here, or you can define the data type, whichever you prefer. Both ways work. If you want to define the data type, you can actually erase it like that and get it directly. Since this name text is the name that I used in the activity, as you can see here, I'm using that one to get the name text. I can do the same thing with the surname. This time around, instead of variable value, I passed it down in the find view by ID, and I said r.id.surname.text, which is available down there. So if you go down, you'll see the surname text here. Finally, I got the button in the same way. Now, one of the tricks in here is that you should convert the values to string, otherwise these values goes as null apparently to the next activity. So make sure that this text value is always converted to string. Just to test if this is gonna work, I'm gonna make this a comment and try to run the application. When I run the application, you will realize that there is a name which I can type here. There's a surname, again I can type in here. I can press on submit, which will create my full name, this and this, in the toast message, as you can see. Now the toast message I simply use to understand whether or not I can get the values of them, and I can. Now I'm going to use the intent to transfer it to another activity. To create this activity, you need to create an intent object, and intents are created in Kotlin without the new keyword. So in Java you will have new here, but since Kotlin does not support that, Kotlin is a different language, so we don't use new, we just say intent, and you indicate which activity you are in and which activity you want to jump. You will also realize that the activity that you want to jump in must be handled with a class definition. As Kotlin is built on the top of Java, you have to indicate of which class you are going to jump in, and it is under the Java folder, as you can see. So if we zoom in, you will see that it's under the Java folder. So this key part is also optional. You can simply leave it as this, or you can say this at main activity, which is the activity that I'm in. Next, you have to put the extras. The extras is basically a key value. In this case, the key value name is name, and you basically assign a variable inside. Now this is the part that is important. Make sure that the toString is written there, otherwise this can go null to the next activity. And we can do the surname as well in the same way, and finally when we are happy, we can start the activity. When you come to the second activity, you will have to get these values, and we're going to use the same pattern as well. If the value is null and you want to check that, you can use the nullable sign, which will allow you to get the value, and if it is null, well, it will still be there. You can delete this or you can put it on depending on how you want to get the extras. Okay, it's a nice idea to put it there just in case, because as I said, the values can be null and you don't want to crash your software because of a null value. So it's a nice idea, put them in. Another thing that I paid attention here is that instead of showing name and surname differently, I created one text result, only one, and I wanted to combine name and surname in one go, as you can see. So what I did was, I want to show this part here, txt result, get it. I want to show inside txt result name and surname. So for now I'm going to make this a comment and just look at the toast message if I can get them in the second activity. So running the application, I have my name and surname, so typing it down, name and surname, and pressing on the submit, and it goes to the next activity, and as you can see, my name and surname displayed there. But this one has not been modified yet because we made it a comment. So I'm going to open this one, txt result, just to see if it's going to get these values. So rerunning the application once again and typing my name and surname, pressing on the submit, and this time around, as you can see, I can get my name and surname. Now the go back button, it does not work yet, so we're going to do that part as well. You can simply come in here inside the main activity, button go back, set on click listener, and if you want to create an activity, you do this exactly the same way as you did in the first one. So you can come in here, type this time which activity you want to go. The this keyword can be left as it is, just as this, and instead of main activity 2, because we are already in main activity, we're going to type just main activity. Since we don't want to carry any values in here, you can simply say start activity and pass the intent here. If you don't want to carry any values, you don't have to put the extras. That's an optional thing, and it's only used when you want to carry the values. Since we don't want to do that, we're just going to go back to the activity that we started. I just do it this way. So now that our application works, we're going to do it one more time. My name, my surname, submit. It shows there, and it also shows the toast message down there, and we can go back to the main activity once again. So it allows you to kind of like create a go back screen using these explicit intents. You see my name and surname there, and I can go back. John Black, submit, welcome John Black, and it's also show the toast message, and you can go back. If it's there, if the values are not entered, it will not show them. One mistake that I often make is to not convert these values to string, and when I don't do that, sometimes it creates a null error to me. So let's just show that one as well. So make sure that the values you get are converted to string. So even I enter these values, let's see if it's gonna do that. You see it gets them as null, and technically your code is correct. There's nothing wrong with it, because you have the name text and the surname text, which is supposed to be string by default, and when you pass them, there's nothing wrong with your intent. But because these values are not converted to string, it gets annoyed. So that is why I'm always converting to string, just in case. And I do that also in the activity. You see I get the string in here as a key, but then I make sure that the key is also converted to string, even though these are extra. So this is technically, you can write it like this because it's already a string value, but since it is not converted to string, sometimes it creates a null problem for me. So that's why I always convert it to string, and I also suggest you to do that as well. So when you post it, as you can see, you can still see the name without this, but when you pass them, you have to convert to the string value. So make sure of that. Going back, and the values are there. As I said, to add the explicit intent, you just need to go to the application, new, find the activity, and select empty activity. When you create that, it will ask you to enter a main activity, which is going to be your class under the Java folder, and the layout name, which is going to be the activity main tree that will be placed under the layout. So each activity has a layout and a class. Alright, there's also an exercise which I like to show you, that how you can perform these operations using multiple activities. So this is an exercise that I have already done, and I have actually put everything inside in this exercise into a scroll view. So we have like multiple components being in one place. So let's just see how this is going to look. As you can see, the user is expected to enter a name and a surname. There's the option of male and female. There's the option of hobbies. There's also the option of student. If you are a student, you are supposed to select your department. And then there's the submit and the clear options. So when I run this application, let's see how it looks. I can fill all that information, and you can scroll up and down. As you can see, I can scroll up and down, and I can enter this information here. So that's my name, that's my surname. I am selecting my gender, in this case male. All of these are my hobbies, so I'm clicking them all, If I am a student, I can unlock this, and when I unlock it, you see it opens up a window for selecting my department. I'm going to select software engineering and then submit, and all that information is going to come here. So this name, surname, whatever, and the department. And I can even go back and it remembers my selections. Can you see that? It remembers the selections. So I can literally remove that I'm a student and just gym and video games as my hobbies, and it remembers that. And I can go back and you see all of my choices now is being remembered by the application. This is a nice exercise that you can do by yourself to indicate how these components work. And just to guide you in this, I created this exercise using an activity pattern, just one activity to have all these components in one place and another activity to show them. Once I have created the view, which starts with an autocomplete text for name and surname, and I put a radio group for male and female selection, and underneath I put hobbies, which are checkboxes, and finally I put a switch, which as you can see can be turned on and off. And using that, if it's turned on, I wanted to show the spinner and then allow the user to do an operation. So whenever I go to the main activity, what I did was I obtain all of these values with find view by ID, and I can assign auto complete text some values if I wanted to. This is optional, an optional part. Let's just make it optional. And once the submit button is submitted, what I did was I got every single selection. So I said name text to string. Remember, we are always converting to string. Surname the same way. And for hobbies, gender and department, I'm first checking the checkboxes. If they are there, I'm putting the gym, movies and video games. And for the radio group, I try to understand which one is being clicked, so I can get the text of it and assign it to the gender. Finally, I put a function called a variable called is department visible. This is automatically false, but if the switch is on, then it is set to true. So I have a function that is attached to switch, and if it is actually true, if the switch is on, then I make the department visible and I set it to the department visible true. If it is false, then it's not visible, which means we've gone is not visible and the department is false. And this function is actually attached to the switch. So if you go down to switch, you will see that the function is there. See, on click switch, it is attached to it. So as you move the switch, it actually enables the view of the department. So when I run this thing, you will see that it enables the department. So I'm going to go down and I open this. Now I can select the department, and when I close it, it's gone. I can open and close. It's a nice practice that you can use. Now I can go back to the function, and this remember selection is the part that I did just to remember the values when it comes back. So I'm not gonna do that. So when everything is obtained, you move from one activity to other, just like we did in our exercise, and each key is passed. When keys are passed, you can obtain them, you can start the activity, and you can obtain them in activity 2. So when you come here, as you can see, I use exactly the same logic. Name, surname, hobbies, gender. I get every single one of them as string values. Once you obtain them as string values, you can assign their values to the text properties of the text view, which will then allow you to put them into the fields. Now as for the go back button, instead of just going back directly without putting the values, I put the last values that the user entered, as well as the go back button click feature. So I put the entire go back clicked variable, which is the boolean type of the value, and I put it there inside the Boolean type. I put it there just to make sure that when the activity 1 is being loaded, to understand that it is actually coming from activity 2. So if we go up to the create, I am checking this value. If the go back is true, then remember the selection. There's a function called remember the selection, and remember the selection actually obtains the values that come from activity 2 and assigns them to the relevant sections. For example, if there is a name and it's not null, then name text will be the set text of name, and the same way surname text, set text will be the surname. If the hobbies are not null, then we can look into each hobbies as a Boolean value. If they are already checked, then we can also check the checkboxes. As you can see, we can look up the gender, whether it's equal to male or female, and check the radio buttons accordingly, according to which one is being checked. And finally, I can look into the department. If the department is not null, which means you already selected the department, then I make sure that the department is visible, because it could be not visible at that point. We set it up to visible, and then look into which department is being selected. If computer engineering is selected, then the selection is 0. If information engineering is selected, the selection is 1. And finally, if software engineering is selected, that's gonna be selection 2. So whenever you run this application now, you will realize that even when you go back, it will actually remember your selection. So supposedly I mistype my name and surname. It also offers me, as you can see, options here. Supposedly I mistyped it, and I'm gonna select my gender wrong on purpose, and I'm gonna select gym and video games, and I'm gonna say I'm a computer engineer student. When I submit it, it remembers the value, but since I'm not John and not female, I can go back and fix this. See, it remembers my value. I can put I here, and I can change my gender to male, which is the correct one. And I'm not a student, so I'm going to close this and then submit it. So all that information is there, and it even remembers, as you can see, the switch, if it is open or not, and at any point you can also clear it. Well, I hope you found this exercise enlightening. I hope you understand how explicit intents work. Hopefully you'll use this in your applications when you build a Kotlin application in Android Studio. Thank you for watching the video, and please, if you learned something or if you like the video, comment, subscribe or like the video. Thank you so much. Take good care.